Dear friends, welcome to our channel. We are delighted to share with you different stories of love and betrayal from around the world. So let's begin our storytelling journey today. Gareth stood by the window of his study, clutching his phone tightly, the intimate text exchanges on the screen stinging his eyes. 6 years of marriage seemed like a joke at this moment. Outside, the late spring sunlight bathed the campus lawn, students passing by carefree, while his world quietly crumbled. It's just a trip. Why are you reacting this way? Fiona's voice came from the living room, her nonchalant tone grating on Gareth's nerves. Gareth turned around, his gaze cold as ice. You invited your ex-boyfriend Harlan and your ex-husband Quentin, who once ridiculed me as a boring bookworm, in front of everyone. And then you ask why I'm reacting this way. Fiona gently swirled the wine glass in her hand, avoiding Gareth's gaze. Harlan and I are just old classmates, and he recently helped the school find land for expansion. As for Quentin, he's now an executive at a travel agency and can get us discounts. We're all adults. Can't we put the past behind us? So that's your explanation? Gareth shook his head. You've been lying for the past 3 months, haven't you? Those so-called teacher seminars and girlfriends gatherings. Fiona's expression flashed a hint of panic, but she quickly regained composure. Are you spying on me? Her tone was accusatory, as if Gareth was the one who had done something wrong. Gareth didn't answer immediately, turning toward the window instead. 6 years ago, he had been attracted to Fiona's vivacious personality and passion for history education. As an assistant professor of history at the State University, he admired this high school history teacher's ability to transform complex knowledge into vivid lessons. They shared common interests and similar values, at least he once thought so. I won't be going with you, Gareth said calmly. Fiona's mother Vivian stood up from the sofa, with that condescending attitude that hadn't changed since they first met 6 years ago. Humph. Then we'll give your ticket to Fiona's old high school flame. He knows how to enjoy life much more than you do anyway. Gareth noticed that Fiona didn't contradict her mother's words, even slightly curving her lips upward. In the living room sat several of Fiona's friends, exchanging glances, their faces bearing disdainful expressions. These people had never respected bookworm Gareth, and now they openly sided with Fiona. Suit yourselves, Gareth said quietly, turning toward his study and gently closing the door. But he wasn't as calm as he appeared. He grabbed his phone, first canceling the family vacation package he had booked, then booking a one-way ticket to Boston for the next day, and finally calling his college friend Tristan, now a lawyer. Tristan, I need your help. Gareth's voice was deep and firm. Fiona has been unfaithful. I want a divorce. Tristan was silent for a moment on the other end. Are you sure? Don't you want to try to reconcile? 3 months ago, I had suspicions, Gareth said, but I chose to trust her. Until last week when I saw those photos and messages on her tablet. I understand. Tristan's tone became professional. I'll prepare the documents. How do you plan to tell her? Now. After ending the call, Gareth took a deep breath, opened a drawer, and took out a USB drive. He had already backed up all the evidence. Fiona's intimate messages with Harlan, those intimate photos at fancy restaurants and so-called vacation villas, and all the lies she had fabricated. Not to humiliate her, but to protect himself if necessary. 10 minutes later, when Gareth reappeared in the living room, Fiona and her mother were enthusiastically discussing the vacation itinerary, as if his refusal had been just a minor incident. I've canceled all vacation reservations, Gareth announced calmly, his voice not loud, but enough to silence the room. I've booked a one-way ticket to Boston for tomorrow and just contacted a lawyer. Fiona frowned, as if hearing a bad joke. What are you talking about? I want to divorce Fiona. The air in the living room seemed to freeze. Fiona's mother gaped, speechless for a moment. Her friends looked at each other, none expecting this seemingly mild history professor to make such a resolute decision. You can't react so extremely to a simple travel arrangement. Fiona finally found her voice, but her tone already carried irritation. This is absurd. What's absurd is you inviting your lover and ex-husband on vacation. Gareth looked directly into her eyes. And even more absurd is that you thought I didn't know about your affair. Fiona's face turned pale, but she quickly regained composure. What nonsense are you talking about? March 17th, you said you were attending a teacher seminar, but were actually with Harlan at the Lakeside Hotel. April 2nd, the so-called ladies' night. You were at his vacation villa. And last Friday, you said you were visiting your sister, but actually, you're following me? Fiona's voice rose, her expression changing from denial to anger, showing no shame at being caught. No need to follow you. Gareth shook his head. My student happened to see you at the hotel, and the photos on your social media and tablet provided the rest of the proof. You didn't even bother deleting those photos. Vivian interrupted. Even if there's some little flirtation, so what? Modern marriages aren't so rigid. Your overreaction will only make my daughter want to escape this boring relationship more. Gareth gave her a cold look. The foundation of marriage is trust and respect. Since both have been broken, there's no point in continuing. Calm down. Fiona suddenly changed her tone, softening her voice. We can talk, resolve this problem properly. There's nothing left to talk about. Gareth picked up his car keys. I'll stay at the visiting scholars' residence on campus tonight and go directly to the airport tomorrow. You have 2 weeks to pack your things and move out. The house is yours to use for now. The court will decide on property division once divorce proceedings begin. Wait. Fiona blocked the doorway, her expression turning anxious. You really want to end our 6-year marriage? Just because of this? Gareth looked at her calmly. No. Fiona, the one ending our marriage isn't me, but your own choices. Opening the door, Gareth walked toward his car without looking back. He could hear Fiona cursing behind him, accusing him of being cold-blooded, while Vivian said something in a sharp voice about never loved my daughter enough. But none of this could shake his determination. Gareth tossed and turned on the bed in the Boston University visitor's apartment. Outside, the city lights outlined an unfamiliar skyline. 3 months earlier, Boston University's history department had invited him to participate in a semester-long research project, and he had originally planned to discuss it with Fiona before deciding. Now, this invitation had become his opportunity to start anew. His phone constantly vibrated, showing Fiona's calls and messages. Initially, they were angry accusations, then turned to pleas, and finally threats. Gareth didn't respond to any, only sending an email to Tristan, attaching the evidence he had collected. On the 3rd day after leaving home, Gareth stood in the office of the Boston University History Department head. We're glad you accepted our invitation, though under these special circumstances, said the chair, Desmond. Your research direction is exactly what we want to strengthen. Thank you for your understanding, Gareth replied. I need this new environment. In the following weeks, Gareth immersed himself completely in his research work. He spent days in the library consulting materials, nights writing papers in his apartment, and weekends attending academic discussion forums. Work became his way of escaping pain, although when the night was quiet, those images of betrayal would still appear in his mind. Meanwhile, the divorce process officially began. Tristan told him that Fiona initially refused to sign, claiming she wanted to save the marriage, but upon discovering Gareth's firm attitude, her stance hardened, starting to make various property division demands. She's demanding a share of your pension and future royalty income, Tristan said on the phone, and also claimed she made career sacrifices during the marriage. Gareth chuckled slightly. She can ask for anything, but I won't yield. The house can be hers, but my academic achievements are my own. There's something you might want to know. Tristan hesitated for a moment. Fiona is now publicly with Harlan. They frequently appear at social events in town. Gareth was silent for a moment. I'm not surprised. I wish them happiness. After hanging up, Gareth opened his computer and checked the local news website from his hometown. Although he told himself not to do so, something drove him to learn about Fiona and Harlan's current situation. While browsing, a news item caught his attention. Local real estate broker suspected of misleading clients. Regulatory authorities launch investigation. Opening it, he saw Harlan's photo. The report stated that an anonymous person had provided extensive evidence to real estate regulatory agencies and local media, showing that Harlan had seriously misled foreign investors and retirees when selling properties. Gareth wasn't surprised. In the last few months of their marriage, he had heard Fiona mention several times how Harlan cleverly utilized information asymmetry to earn substantial commissions, and had joked that Harlan knew how to make people sign without letting them see all the terms. At the time, Gareth had expressed disapproval of such practices, but Fiona just laughed, saying he was too rigid. Closing the web page, Gareth considered whether to further investigate this matter. As a historian, he was accustomed to seeking truth and collecting evidence. But on the other hand, he had decided to completely cut ties with the past and didn't want to be involved in anything related to Fiona or Harlan. However, the next morning, he received an email from a retired professor from his hometown. This old professor had been his mentor and mentioned in the email that he had purchased a property on Harlan's recommendation, but now discovered serious problems and suspected he had been misled. I know this might make you uncomfortable, considering the current situation, the old professor wrote. But I've heard you're going through a divorce, and your wife has connections with this broker. I just wanted to know if you have any inside information. Gareth stared at the email for a long time. He didn't want to use this opportunity to get revenge on Harlan, but he couldn't ignore his mentor's predicament either. Finally, he replied, I know something about the situation, but need more details to judge. If it's convenient, could you tell me more about this purchase? In the following weeks, besides completing his own research work, Gareth helped his mentor organize relevant documents and evidence. He discovered that Harlan did indeed engage in systematic misleading behavior, especially targeting those unfamiliar with the local market. By comparing public records with information provided by Harlan, the discrepancies were evident. After much consideration, Gareth decided to anonymously provide these findings to local newspapers and regulatory authorities. This wasn't for revenge, but out of a sense of justice. He knew this might indirectly affect Fiona, but everyone should take responsibility for their own choices. The divorce hearing was scheduled 3 months after Gareth left. When he entered the courtroom, he saw Fiona sitting there, dressed in a serious dark suit, very different from her usual style. She tried to make eye contact with him, but Gareth politely avoided it. Your Honor, Fiona's lawyer began. My client wishes the court to consider the possibility of reconciliation. Misunderstandings and hurts in a marriage should have the opportunity to be repaired. My client's position is very clear, Tristan responded. The evidence shows that the foundation of the marriage no longer exists. Continuing is pointless. The judge reviewed the evidence materials, then looked at Gareth. Are you sure you don't want to consider mediation or marriage counseling? Yes, Your Honor, Gareth calmly replied. Once trust is broken, it cannot be repaired. After the hearing ended, as Gareth prepared to leave, Fiona stopped him. Can't we really talk? There was a fragility in her voice that Gareth had never heard before. I know I made a mistake, but 6 years of feelings. I'm sorry, Fiona, Gareth interrupted her, but I've made my decision. Is it because of that investigation into Harlan? Fiona suddenly asked, anger flashing in her eyes. It was you who reported him, wasn't it? Gareth looked at her calmly. Everyone should be responsible for their own actions. You've changed, Fiona shook her head. Never thought you'd be so ruthless. No, Fiona, Gareth said softly. I just no longer allow myself to be deceived and manipulated. Leaving the courthouse, Gareth saw Harlan standing in the parking lot, leaning against a luxury sedan. He hesitated for a moment, then walked over. We need to talk, Harlan said, a hint of tension in his voice, about that anonymous report. Gareth looked at him expressionlessly. We have nothing to talk about. That investigation ruined my career. Harlan suddenly raised his voice. I know it was you. Only Fiona knew those details, and she could only have told you. If your business is completely legal, you don't need to worry about an investigation, Gareth calmly responded. If it's not, then the problem lies in your behavior, not in the whistleblower. Harlan's expression turned ugly. You think you're so noble? Taking revenge this way? I have no obligation to explain anything to you. Gareth turned to leave. Good luck, Harlan. You'll need it. Just then, an elderly gentleman approached. Gareth recognized his retired mentor. Gareth, the old professor called out. I was just coming to deal with that property matter. Harlan's face turned pale, obviously recognizing who the professor was. Without waiting for Gareth's response, he quickly got into his car and left. Was that the real estate broker? The retired professor frowned. Yes, Gareth nodded. How is the investigation going? The regulatory authorities have already confirmed multiple violations, said the old professor. Not just me who was affected. Thank you for helping me organize those materials. Gareth shook his head. I just did what was right. Back in Boston, Gareth received a call from Tristan, informing him that the divorce process was about to be completed, and the court had ruled on property division. To Gareth's surprise, Fiona ultimately didn't insist on most of her demands. Her attitude suddenly softened, Tristan said. She only asked to keep the house and some furniture, giving up her claims on your pension and intellectual property. Why? Gareth was confused. As I understand it, Harlan's business has been severely impacted, and their relationship has become strained. Some parents at the school learned of her relationship with someone under investigation and pressured the administration. Gareth was silent for a moment. This is not the outcome I wanted. But it's the outcome she chose, Tristan said. Every choice has its consequences. After hanging up, Gareth stood by the window, looking at the night view of Boston. 6 months ago, he thought his marriage would last a lifetime. Now, everything had changed. But strangely, what he felt wasn't just loss, but also a sense of relief, as if he had shed a long-carried burden. That night, Gareth deleted all of Fiona's photos and contact information from his phone, not out of hatred, but to move forward. The betrayal was now in the past. A new life awaited. Autumn in Boston proved more beautiful than Gareth had imagined. Golden leaves covered the campus paths. Morning mist shrouded the Charles River, giving the city a mysterious air. 6 months had passed since he left his hometown, and the divorce process had been officially completed the previous month. Gareth's research project was progressing well. His paper, Collective Memory of Ancient Civilizations and Modern Political Identity, had generated widespread interest in academic circles. Boston University offered him a permanent teaching position, meaning he could start a new life in this city. One weekend morning, Gareth sat on the balcony of his apartment, savoring coffee and browsing the morning paper. His phone rang, showing a call from Tristan. "Good morning, Tristan," Gareth answered. "Any news?" "Well, I thought you might want to know." Tristan's tone was somewhat cautious. Harlan's company was fined $500,000, and his license was temporarily suspended. It's quite a big scandal locally. Gareth frowned. "That's no longer my concern." "I know. Just felt I should tell you." Tristan continued. "Also, Fiona resigned from her school job, reportedly due to too much pressure. Some parents complained that her private life might negatively influence students." Gareth sighed. "I never thought it would end like this." "It's not your fault, buddy." Tristan consoled him. "Everyone must be responsible for their own choices." "I heard she moved to the neighboring city, found a new job at a private school." After hanging up, Gareth felt a complex mix of emotions. He had never wished for Fiona's career to be affected, despite her betrayal. But he also understood that all this was the result of her own choices. That afternoon, Gareth decided to take a walk along the Charles River to clear his mind. On the riverside path, people strolled leisurely, couples held hands, children played. Suddenly, he saw a familiar figure, Imogen, Fiona's colleague at school, and also a former mutual friend. "Gareth." Imogen stopped in surprise. "I didn't expect to meet you here. I now work at Boston University," Gareth explained. "And you? Here on vacation?" "Attending an education conference," Imogen answered, hesitating for a moment. "I heard about what happened between you two. It's a pity." They found a cafe by the river and sat down. At first the conversation was a bit awkward, but soon relaxed. "I don't know if I should tell you this," Imogen finally said, "but I think you have the right to know. Fiona and Harlan's relationship has become very bad." "That's none of my business," Gareth said softly. "I've moved on." "I understand," Imogen nodded. "It's just that her last few weeks at school were very painful. Those rumors, the parents' complaints, plus Harlan becoming irritable because of the investigation, pushing all the blame onto her." Gareth didn't respond, just watching the small boats passing on the river. "She told me." Imogen continued. "She regretted it, not because of the divorce consequences, but because she let down someone who truly loved her." Gareth took a deep breath. "Unfortunately, it's too late. I just thought you should know that she's not entirely without remorse," Imogen said, "though that doesn't change anything." When parting, Imogen gave Gareth a brief hug. "I'm glad to see you're doing well. You deserve better." Back at his apartment, Gareth reflected on this chance encounter. He didn't hate Fiona, nor wish her to suffer. But at the same time, he understood that some damage, once done, cannot be repaired. When trust is broken, even if you try to piece it back together, permanent cracks will remain. A month later, Gareth received an official appointment letter from Boston University. The school offered him a tenured professor position, with a generous salary and excellent research conditions. This meant he could completely bid farewell to the past and start a new life in this city. The evening he signed the contract, Gareth decided to celebrate properly. He went alone to an upscale restaurant, ordered a bottle of fine red wine. While enjoying his appetizer, his phone received an email notification. The sender was Fiona. Gareth stared at the screen for a long time, hesitating whether to open it. Finally, curiosity overcame hesitation. "Gareth, I know you probably don't want to hear anything from me and might delete this email upon seeing it, but I still need to write it. I won't excuse my actions, nor ask for your forgiveness. I just want you to know that I'm sorry for what I did. Not because of the consequences, but because I betrayed your trust and love. I now understand that those things I thought would bring me excitement and fulfillment ultimately left me with emptiness and regret. Harlan never really cared about me. He just used me to satisfy his vanity. When troubles came, he immediately pushed the blame onto me. I don't expect a response. Just wanted you to know that I truly regret hurting you. I hope you find happiness in your new city. Fiona." Gareth finished reading the email and closed his phone screen. He didn't immediately feel anger or sadness, just a quiet acceptance. He wouldn't reply to this email, not out of resentment, but because that chapter was already in the past. He raised his wine glass, making a silent toast to the city view outside the window. This city had given him a new beginning, a new hope. The pain of betrayal was gradually fading, replaced by expectation for the future. A year later, in spring, Gareth was in the university library preparing courses for the new semester. In the past year, many positive changes had occurred in his life. His research work was recognized in academic circles. His newly published monograph received good reviews. He had made new friends and even started trying activities he had never considered before, like rowing and hiking. His phone vibrated, showing a text message. It was Tristan. "Hey, buddy, guess who I just saw? Harlan is serving coffee in a cafe. Looks like the real estate business completely failed." Gareth saw the message but didn't reply. He didn't want to dwell on old grudges. They were no longer important. In the evening, Gareth walked along the Charles River, enjoying the warm spring sunshine. Passing by a bookstore, he stopped, attracted by a new book in the window display. Going in, he casually browsed the history books, then sat down in the cafe area to rest. At the next table, a woman was reading a book about ancient Greek civilization, which caught Gareth's interest. "That book is very well written." He couldn't help commenting, especially the chapter on the Athenian democratic system. The woman looked up, showing curiosity. "Are you a historian?" "A history professor at Boston University," Gareth smiled in response. "Sorry, occupational hazard. Can't help commenting when I see history books." "No, I appreciate it." The woman closed her book. "I'm a curator at the Art Museum, preparing an ancient Greek art exhibition. Could you recommend some more in-depth materials?" They began a pleasant conversation. Phoebe, that was the curator's name, had a genuine passion for history and unique insights. During the conversation, Gareth felt a lightness and joy he hadn't experienced in a long time. Leaving the bookstore, they exchanged contacts, agreeing to visit the museum's new exhibition together the following week. Walking home, Gareth felt a quiet joy rising within him. The past pain wouldn't completely disappear, but it no longer dominated his life. Back at his apartment, Gareth stood by the window, watching the city lights gradually turn on. He recalled that painful decision a year ago and all the changes that followed. The betrayal had destroyed his marriage, but not his life or future. Every relationship needs honesty and respect, and when these foundations collapse, the only option is to bravely move forward. Not for revenge, not for punishment, but for one's own dignity and happiness. Outside, the spring breeze brought an air of renewal. Gareth breathed deeply, feeling the pulse of this city that had become his home. The shadows of the past had dissipated. Ahead lay a future full of possibilities. He was ready to welcome the next chapter of his life, whatever it might bring. Heading to his desk, Gareth turned on his computer to prepare the next day's lecture. On the screen appeared the cover draft of his new book, History, Memory, and Identity: Collective Narratives in Modern Society. This book condensed his thoughts and research from the past year, and also symbolized his new chapter. In his new life in Boston, Gareth found inner peace. Not because he had forgotten the past, but because he had learned to reconcile with it and draw strength to move forward. The pain of betrayal finally transformed into nutrients for growth, allowing him to become a stronger, more authentic version of himself. If this story resonated with you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more fascinating content. We hope to see you in another story soon.